The Godfather.
This that. This that. This that jumpin', yeah. This that jumpin', start like 23. This that jumpin', too full like Kobe. This that jumpin', shoot my shot, then beat. This that jumpin', right around song my trees. This that jumpin', start like 23. This that jumpin', too full like Kobe. This that jumpin', shoot my shot, then beat. This that jumpin', right around smoking my dreams. I be ballin' in music like Kobe. I'm the greatest to ever do it, they don't know it. Straight from the streets where the shots came blowin'. I came from the bottom where they hate to see you blow. Mama always told me I'ma shine so I glow. I came from the block where I stood 10 toes. Came a long way, now I'm on the top floor.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Turtles Take. We've got a great show here lined up for you. We're going to be talking Bears, Bulls, a little bit of NCAA, some baseball, and we've got special guest, big play, Reggie Gray, joining us at 7:50. We've got a great show lined up for you. Vince, how you doing tonight, brother?
Man, I'm good. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Excited. It's been a long week. Got a lot of Chicago sports news to cover here tonight, so got a great show lined up for the guests. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah, it should be a good time. You know, we were able to hop on the sport court with our boy Angelo and on Wednesday night and kind of double dip this week. And the weather's starting to get a little nicer as the week goes on. And second time on, and you know, I'm just kind of feeling it. We're gonna have a great show tonight. Like you said, it's a never a dull moment in Chicago sports right now, especially as days go by. We get closer and closer to the Bears draft and speculation and all the new Andy Dalton workout films and workout videos get posted by the Bears social media department, and you know, there's always a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I just have to say, I don't ever envy the Bears social media department, man. That's got to be one of the toughest jobs to have.
I mean, I get what they're doing. Like, I get they're just doing their job. They're trying to get everybody involved. He's the new acquisition, but it's like they never did that before. We never saw Cutler working out or Mitch or Fuller.
Right.
Yeah, they never showed any of the quarterbacks working out in the gym. We've seen Dalton. We saw him boxing or sparring, and now we got to see him working out with free weights and different things. It seems like
right.
They got a little series they're going here with the Andy Dalton workouts.
I think that's just the Bears trying to hype him up as an acquisition. I mean, I get it. He's your QB1, as they've stated, and you know, we saw Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy reaffirm that earlier today with a lot of the same old talk, a lot of the collaboration talks going on there, but we can get into that here in a little bit. But the whole Andy Dalton workout videos, man, let's see him on the field. Let's see him throwing some footballs. Let's see him doing something.
Well,
I don't want to see the guy in a boxing gym. He's not a boxer.
No, I don't want to see that. They came out this week, or somebody came out this week. I don't know who it was, but they said that Kyle Trask is working out in the offseason with Andy Dalton. Let's see the two of them throwing footballs. I'd love to see that.
Right.
I don't really care if they can lift weights. I could give two shits what he lifts and what his workout regimen is and all this and that. We didn't care when they showed Khalil Mack in the gym. We really don't care about Andy Dalton in the gym.
Exactly. And like I said, I get it. It's a PR stunt. It's, hey, let's hype up this guy that we just gave $10 million to, but I'd rather be without it.
You gotta come to my way of thinking. They said it's like a $5 million contract that with incentives can be 10. So in my mind, I just keep reminding myself it's only 5. If he hits 10, it means he did something really good because that means the incentives kicked in. You know, then again, Ryan Pace is the one who made the contract, so it could be like, you know, lift X amount of weight in the gym and box so many rounds and you hit your incentive bonus.
Yeah. Don't throw X amount of interceptions.
Right.
So So going back to Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, today we had the press conference where they came out, talked about a few different things. Andy Dalton in particular, they had came out and said that they were really confident with him as a starter. They like the acquisition and they really like the skill set that he brings. They think he'll be great running RPOs and play action, things of that nature. What's your take on that, Vince? Just as far as Andy's mobility and the ability to run the type of offense that Matt Nagy wants to run, because that was another thing Matt Nagy said today was that he would be calling plays again this season.
So this is two-sided. The first side is, as the fan, and what I heard was, okay, we got this guy. We don't want you to realize that he's just average at best. So we're just gonna shine him up real nice and make him look real pretty and package him together as and say football words like RPOs and play action. And I mean, every quarterback in the NFL runs those now. Even the non-mobile quarterbacks run RPOs and they just throw it every time. Or the RPO, they hand off. They're not actually the ones running it. Play action. Right. Yeah, I'd love to have a play action be part of the Bears offense, but you got to run the ball enough to establish the run to make somebody in the stadium think you're going to run the ball for a play action to work. They were running play action last year and the defense was like, run about 5 times a game for like 22 yards. Go ahead and hand it off. We're just going to drop 6 guys back, 7 guys back and make you throw it over us or around it. We're pick it off when you do. So all that, I mean, at the end of the day, and this is where I say it's two-sided, at the end of the day, what are they supposed to say? We tried to get Ben Roethlisberger. Pittsburgh retained him. We tried to get Jameis Winston. He stayed in New Orleans. We thought we had Russell Wilson. Just kidding. We actually got Andy Dalton. I mean, they're not going to say that, we got stuck with Andy Dalton. We had to get somebody before there was nobody left. Tyrod Taylor, they offered Tyrod Taylor a contract. He went to Houston for more money. It's at this point, I try to limit how much I think how bad it's going to be and think about maybe this is what we've been waiting for. Maybe let's just say we stay with Andy Dalton. Maybe he is a Matt Nagy quarterback and, his familiarity with Bill Lazor, although it wasn't always great in Cincinnati, at least he knows the offense and he is mobile. He's, maybe he's not Mitch mobile, but he's at least mobile where he can pick up a first down here and there, at least to make you think about it.
He's definitely more mobile than Nick Foles. I will say that. Nick Foles looked like a statue in that pocket. I mean, Nick Foles is the definition of a statue pocket passer. So I do agree that Andy Dalton's a little bit more versatile in that regard. He doesn't have Trubisky legs, but he's definitely got the IQ to hit the second and third read, which is something that Mitch always lacked fundamentally since his time in Chicago really began. So
yeah, absolutely. If he can, like you said, if he can quickly go from, through all of his progressions and get to the open receiver and find the open man and just take what the defense gives them, maybe the Bears they get a few plays together and they get more touchdowns than we think and they do a little better. The one thing I will say about this offense, it did run when it ran its best when the year that was at Matt Nagy's first year when they lost to Philadelphia. The offense ran because Mitch picked up third downs with his feet, and I've said it here the last couple of shows, and we talked about it on some of our other shows we've been on here on 1252. He just stopped running. Mitch decided that and I still think it was that time he got hurt on Monday Night Football against Minnesota. He was sliding and he got hit, and from then on it was his non-throwing shoulder. And from when he came back, he wasn't the same guy. He was hesitant to run. He wanted to wait. My biggest pet peeve about Mitch was when he'd roll out, get all the way to the sideline, could just flip the ball out of bounds for incomplete, and instead he takes the sack. Like, why? Just flip the ball out of bounds, or then he would step out. Like, just flip the ball, take the incomplete pass. So we'll see. In
regards to that, I mean, I've heard mixed opinions on Trubisky running. A lot of people have said, our guy Allen saying, spot on, Vince.
Take a picture of that.
I think that's about the first time he's agreed with one of your takes.
I think so, too.
We love Allen over here at 1252. But, Yeah, with Mitch, I think it was a little bit of his hesitancy, but I've also heard that it was coaching as well, that Matt Nagy was trying to coach him into staying in the pocket more and being a little bit more of a pocket passer.
Yeah.
And I get it schematically with what Matt Nagy wants to do. That does make a little bit of sense. But realistically, Mitch's legs were one of his best weapons. I mean, he had 400 plus yards his that 2018 season with his feet. And it was really a weapon that they utilized well at the beginning of his career. And again, after that Monday Night Football injury, it was just little to no running the last 2 seasons that he was here with the Bears. And I think that did hurt us offensively a little bit just because it was something, it created the dual threat, right?
Right.
And once you take that away, you become very one-dimensional, especially when Matt Nagy's only calling 5 to 7 running plays a game. I mean, that's if you have no run game and you take away your quarterback's ability to be mobile, what are you left with? You're left with passing 40 to 50 times a game. And Mitch Trubisky was never that guy and should have never been that guy.
Right.
I think that
you're definitely on with some of those, and I don't want to keep talking about what it was, and let's just hope that going forward, we got Allen Robinson back on the franchise tender, and with Darwin Mooney, and hopefully he keeps getting a little better here in his year 2, and Piers Anthony Miller is going to be part of this team, whether I like it or not, and maybe he can be a little more consistent, and hopefully Cole Kmet in his second year, we see a lot more of him, and why they went out and they used that draft pick on him. Hopefully we see that this year, because for a guy to use such a high draft pick on when you didn't have a first-round pick, it was very surprising that it took it deep into the season to see him as it did.
Yeah, and I mean, we could sit and talk personnel usage all day. I'm not a big fan of Anthony Miller. Our guy Allen's saying something else we agree on. He's down on Miller as well. I don't like his attitude. I've never liked Anthony Miller's attitude. You can see him be frustrated. You can see him be complacent when he's not getting the ball as much as he believes he should. Maybe he'll see a little bit more targets with Andy Dalton this year. But you touched on Darnell Mooney, and I just want to say that kid is terrific. He had a very, very good rookie year, and I'm really excited to see what he does here in his second year. I think he can definitely develop into that speedster role where he's just versatile out on the field, can beat you with speed, and I love watching that kid's tape. He's hard. He goes very hard.
Yeah, I think, I don't think it's possible anymore because I think his pro day was that good, but I would love to see the Bears get a tackle in the first at 20 and then in the second round be able to, or trade back into the end of the first round something and grab the kid out of Purdue. Was it Ronald Moore? Yeah, if you get him, I mean, he's 5'7", 185 pounds. He ran 4.38 40. He had a 40-inch vertical and 11.1 broad jump. I mean, the guy's explosive as can be. And in this offense, they talk about, well, you need this, you need that. We want to be a Kansas City type offense. Well, there's your Tyreek Hill right there. They say his 40 was the exact same 40 as Tyreek Hill ran. When you can add that type of speed to a duo of Robinson and Mooney, then I think this offense really can be dangerous.
We got our guy Allen here in the chat saying, breaking news, the Bears have been linked to several talks with Ian Book.
See, now I don't know if this is Allen being serious or if this is Allen just being sarcastic with the breaking news. I mean, everything I've heard to Ian Book is like he's going to 6th, 7th, maybe undrafted. And, I mean, he played at Notre Dame. He looked good. It looked good for the majority of the time at Notre Dame. And it's a guy that I've liked, but I really just haven't seen him on any list when they talk about, oh, okay, so Daniel Greenberg had I would love it. I thought Ian Book, obviously Notre Dame, some people love him, some people hate him. I happen to be a big Notre Dame fan, but that aside, I still think Ian Book is a guy that is very low risk. You could get him late in the draft, whether it's him, it's the kid from Texas. I think there's a few guys you could get late in the draft that, they're low risk for where you're taking them, because when you start taking guys in the 6th round, they're going to make the team anyways. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, at that point, if you can get him low in the draft, absolutely, it could potentially be a steal at the 6th or 7th round. Even, I mean, I'm all for that. We touched a little bit on it on Wednesday as far as what we think the Bears should do in the draft here moving forward. But I think tying back to Andy Dalton, I think the offensive line, the development of the guys we have, as well as bringing in another piece at tackle, is going to be crucial to how Andy Dalton's season plays out here as a Bear, because he is a guy that needs a little bit of time in the pocket. And, we obviously saw that offensive line struggle a little bit. We still have Charles Leno on our roster, which amazes me every single day. I was really hoping we would move on from him, and PFF is high on him. I personally am not high on his play. I feel like he has way too many times where he just gets flat out beat against average guys, and it's a big issue that we had most of the season, to move out of it a little bit more. Obviously, Foles wasn't as lucky in that regard, but it kills me that Charles Leno's still on this roster. Our guy Angelo's saying the smart play is a tackle at 20, or with the depth of O-line, maybe trade back for a couple more picks. I could see that happening. I could see it happening.
I don't see any way that Ryan Pace trades back. We'll be lucky Ryan Pace doesn't give up the farm to trade up. We saw what it cost San Francisco to move up from 12 to 3. Now you got the Bears coming from 20. What's it going to cost? And where are you going to move up to get? The only thing I can see moving up for is a quarterback. Well, they're going to go 1 through 4, maybe 5 in the top 10 or top 8. All 5 will go. I just don't see them moving up or back. I think they stay at 20. I don't see. You can't afford to move back. You got to get an impact player, and you don't have what it takes to move up. And there's going to be nobody to move up for. I personally, I would like to see, and I haven't heard much about them lately, but I'd still like to see them take that 1st round pick. You're going to take a tackle with it. I'd like to see them take the 1st round pick and, maybe Anthony Miller or somebody or Leno, and package all of them together and move it to Baltimore for Orlando Brown Jr. He's 24 years old. He played phenomenal at left tackle last year. He's a guy that if you were to get another left tackle that could only play left, he could play right as well. I know he wants to play left tackle, so it's probably where he's going to go. But, if you were able to swing a trade for him, and then I still think there's moves to be made. You saved a lot of money. I know it was to get under the cap, but you saved a lot of money. You didn't get Russ. You planned on paying Russ $25 million, $28 million, whatever he makes this year. So they had that in mind. There's got to be a way to still create that cap space and go sign Mitchell Schwartz. If you got Orlando Brown Jr. at left tackle and Mitchell Schwartz, who is a natural right tackle, at right tackle, with the 3 interior guys, Daniels, Whitehair, and Mustipher, I mean, now a guy like Andy Dalton could be a lot better than you would think, because now he's got time.
Right.
He's got time to look at the whole field. He's got time to step up and get into his throws. So we'll see. Unfortunately, right now, all anybody could do is guess what's going to happen. Unfortunately, we're Bears fans, so we'll probably get screwed in the end, but it's nice to hope.
Yeah, Alan's saying here in the chat, he heard today on Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000 that there's a possibility that the Bears don't even take a quarterback. Man, what do you think about that, Vince? What do you think this team would be if we don't take a quarterback late in the draft? It's obviously going to be late in the draft. Unless we move up, we're going to take a guy like Kellen Mond a little bit later in the draft. What are your thoughts? Do you think this team can be successful this season just with Andy Dalton and Nick Foles on the roster?
Well, I think that whether you take a quarterback in the 4th round, the 5th round, the 6th round, the 7th round, you're not planning on him coming in and being anything this year. So I think it has absolutely zero to do with whether they're good or not this year. So I'd rather see them use those picks and get guys that are going to make an impact this year and are going to start making this team better right away. You've already got Andy Dalton and Nick Foles on the roster. Unless you're going to get a miracle and find somebody to take Nick Foles' contract off your hands. It's not a lot of money. I get that. But unless you're going to find somebody who's going to take Nick Foles, and I thought it would be Philadelphia, but now they went out and got Joe Flacco, so that takes them off out of that discussion.
Right.
Unless you've got somebody that you're definitely going to move Nick Foles to, you might as well just roll with the two of them. Maybe Ian Book falls to undrafted or 7th round, or they got they got 4 6th-round picks. So if they get a quarterback, I could see it being the 6th round with the 2 extra 6th-round picks, giving them 4 picks in the 6th round. I could see him taking an Ian Book or Ellinger out of Texas, somebody that falls that really wasn't expected to be much. It's more of a project guy. Otherwise, it's not going to upset me if they don't take a quarterback. Like I said, there's not a big difference between rounds 5 through 7 and not taking one at all.
Understood. I do understand your take there. I think Alan actually said here in the chat, pitchforks and torches to Hallis Hall. That's kind of my immediate reaction is Ryan Pace has always preached the quarterback position being the most important position, and I believe he's actually been on record saying that he would like to draft a quarterback every year.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that worked out.
Obviously, that hasn't worked out. I do think we need to take a quarterback in the draft. Do I want to see him move up and trade the farm away to make that happen? Absolutely not. I think with the pieces we have on our defense now and where we're at offensively, we're a couple offensive linemen away from being competitive on the offensive side of the ball. Although Matt Nagy's going to be calling plays again this year, so you'll probably see the famous tight end sweep on the goal line and a bunch of dumb little trick plays. They'll probably
though? Nobody complains about the tight end screen and the tight end, all that shit when Travis Kelce's scoring touchdowns. So if Bears start getting to the point where they're scoring and they're they got the receivers and they got the line to protect, and Cole Kmet seems like he's very athletic and can be that type of tight end. If they're throwing 2-yard screens to Cole Kmet and he's getting in the end zone, we're not going to hear anybody complain about it.
That is true, but Jimmy Graham on a tight end sweep is not a guy that I would be putting out there. Jimmy Graham's not a speedster. I mean, again, when you go back to Matt Nagy and his personnel usage, one thing that really bothered me a lot of last season was that we didn't see more of Ridley on the field at wide receiver. I think he's a serviceable guy. I know they said right towards the end of the season that him and Nagy had some disagreements. I'm not sure to what extent that affected his seeing the field, but I've been saying since we acquired Ridley that I would like to see more of him on the field, and it just hasn't happened for one reason or another.
So if you drafted Riley Ridley, obviously they thought he was going to be a playmaker. They drafted Riley Ridley. He can't get on the field, and he's behind guys like Javon Wims and other guys who just aren't the guy either. Clearly, he's not showing anything in practice to say, okay, this guy deserves a shot, because it's not like the Bears had world beaters at wide receiver behind Allen Robinson and Mooney last year. If anybody was halfway decent, they would have got a look. So that makes me worry about what Riley Ridley is as a pro. Everybody sees a lot of these guys the way they play in college, and they go, oh, well, he's a sure thing, bring him in, and he's going to change the offense. Well, some guys come from college, they're just not that good. We saw them go deep into the sack of tricks and players at wide receiver to try to find some sort of option that gave the offense a spark, yet he was never one of the guys they went to. It's got to be more than an argument. I know they disagreed about his playing time, but that goes back to if you're not showing, and I'm not at practice, none of us are, so we don't know, but if the guy is that good at practice, he's going to see the field, especially when you're looking for a spark from somewhere, and you're bringing all these guys in off the street, the Dwayne Harrises and all these guys that they brought in, that if he was you thought there was a remote chance that he could make the offense better, you would have gave him a shot. So it took Cole Kmet a long time to get on the field. These guys coming out of college, sometimes it takes them a long time to adjust to the speed of the NFL. And, you get a guy like Riley Ridley who comes from Alabama and Georgia and these big-time programs that they're the big dog. They go against a lot of really crappy teams in college. Well, every week you're lining up against some of the best dudes in the world. even if you're playing the worst team in the NFL. So it's very possible that he just never gave them a reason to play him.
Okay, yeah, and I do understand your perspective on it. I like his size. I liked his speed coming out of the draft. I think for a guy his size, he would have been a good complement on the offense. I would have liked to see him get some play time over Wims and over Miller as well. But who knows? Maybe he'll develop a little bit more here over the offseason and going into this next year. And maybe we will see a little bit more of him coming out next year. Usage of personnel with Matt Nagy has kind of always been an issue on my side. You scratch your head, like you said, Cole Kmet, he was our first pick in last year's draft, and everyone spoke so highly of him, and then he barely saw the field the first half of the year.
Right.
And you thought that Jimmy Graham was going to kind of be that bridge tight end, and he was average. He was okay, but he didn't do anything that was, definitive enough to say we got to keep him out here and not let Cole in the game. I don't get the personnel usage sometimes, and that goes all the way to even the running back position. I mean, you've got Montgomery out there, gets the ball all the way down the field, and then you put Cordero Patterson in to try to run the ball in. Why go with the hot hand? Feed the hot hand. You've got momentum going with one guy. Keep that momentum going and punch the ball in the end zone, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was one of the few things that, as you've seen on our show and on other shows when we're on, I'm very defensive of Matt Nagy as a coach and giving him his fair shot. As the one thing I just really can't defend is the Cordero Patterson decision. I know you had to do something, and I know it did work at times, but I just don't understand how you got to that point. You've got David Montgomery, who at Iowa State, and again, I know it's not the same as the pros, but Cordero Patterson is not like he's Leonard Fournette or LeGarrette Blount or some of these just big bruising backs. I mean, he's a speed receiver. So it's not like you were going to put him back there and he was going to run people over. Yeah, it worked at times. It did. Okay, so you got lucky a few times where he got some yardage, he got a couple of touchdowns. But at the end of the day, I just don't know what they saw that they were like, you know what, this is going to change the offense. And I know they don't run the ball enough. They don't do a lot of things. You see Kansas City, and it's the only team I can compare them to because that's who they're supposed to be modeled after is the Andy Reid offense in Kansas City. Obviously, Kansas City is Pat Mahomes. That covers a lot of warts when you have a quarterback like Pat Mahomes. But you see, they do the same thing. Sammy Watkins just left. He went somewhere else. He was supposed to be the guy that was going to finally hit the offense other than Tyreek Hill. The whole offense is Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. They don't, they sprinkle a little bit here and there with McCole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson and some of these guys. But at the end of the day, it's Tyreek Hill and it's Travis Kelce and it's Patrick Mahomes. They run the ball about 10 times a game. Even when they're running the ball, they stop running the ball. It makes me see a lot of things that I remember seeing about the Bears, but they're missing the Patrick Mahomes and they're missing the Travis Kelce and they're missing the Tyreek Hill. Like, yeah, I love Allen Robinson. Don't get me wrong. But Tyreek Hill, you could double cover him and he's still going to outrun both guys. He's just that fast. Allen Robinson isn't that kind of speed. Travis Kelce is, one of the best to ever do it. Hopefully Cole Kmet can become just, remind you of him. Not necessarily be him, but just remind you of him. And maybe this offense then starts to take some steps forward instead of continuously stepping backwards.
Fair enough. Our guy Alan here in the chat saying Ryan Nall sucks. I've never been big on Ryan Nall. He's a blocker. As a blocker, he's not bad, but he's not a guy that I want to hand the ball off to. I think one thing that will be interesting this next season is with Tariq Cohen coming back. Obviously, we didn't have him last season out there on the field. With Tariq Cohen coming back, I think Cordero Patterson, if he is still a member of this Bears team, will definitely see a diminished role because they'll go back to using Cohen and Montgomery. Obviously, Montgomery will be your number one back.
And they signed Damian Williams from Kansas City.
Yeah, absolutely.
He opted out last year, but the last time we saw him play he was winning the Super Bowl for Kansas City.
This is true. That was a great acquisition. I mean, for the money they gave him, absolutely. I like the move. I think between him and Tariq Cohen, we'll see a good dynamic in the running back system. I don't want to say be a running back by committee system just because Montgomery's too good of a player for him to not definitively be your number one, in my opinion. I've always been really high on David Montgomery. I've liked watching him when he played in college. I mean, and obviously only some of that translates to the NFL, but that kid's a hard runner. He'll put his head down and hit the smallest of holes. I mean, you saw the offensive line get desecrated last season, and somehow he'd slip through the tiniest crack for, a 7 to 10 yard gain. And the kid plays with heart. He's definitely got the mindset for it. And I've always enjoyed watching Montgomery play, but now you add a couple. Well, I don't want to say a couple weapons. You add another weapon in the running back room. You get a healthy Tariq Cohen back. I don't see Cordero Patterson, if he's still here with the Bears, playing that big of a role this coming season.
See, I got a few things jumped in my head as you were talking about David Montgomery and Cordero Patterson. First off, I hate April Fool's Day. I'm not a fan. I think it's the dumbest thing ever. People share things forgetting it's April Fool's Day, and they get all excited about stuff.
The Bears signing Russell Wilson?
No, not that. Well, that too, but I forgot it was April Fool's Day last night. All day I remembered, but I forgot last night. Cordero Patterson put on his Twitter, coming home to Minnesota. I was very excited that he was going back to the Vikings and that he was not going to be in a Bears uniform. And then I remembered that it's April Fool's Day and this guy still could wind up in a Bears uniform. I don't get it. I said that before, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I don't get Cordero Patterson at all. I love him as a return guy. Go ahead, throw him back there, let him do his thing. Have him come in at wide receiver. That's cool too. I don't want to see him in the backfield. I just don't.
Yeah, keep the guy out of the backfield.
It made sense in New England because he did it when James White got hurt, and they needed that receiving back because that's what New England did. But the Bears don't have that kind of offense. But going to David Montgomery, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Ryan Pace trade up to get David Montgomery?
Yes, he did.
So they didn't have a first-round pick. They used their second-round pick on David Montgomery, and you trade up to get David Montgomery to give him to the very end of the year to finally start using him and be like, hey, this guy could actually play. Well, where was that all year? What made you, everything that made you trade up for a guy is all the reasons why he should have been playing all year. He makes the first guy miss. He catches the ball. He's a 3-down back. This and that and all the, the nuances and all the hot taglines they use to describe players. That's who David Montgomery was at ISU.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
why he traded up to go get him. And then that's why he took a backseat to Tariq Cohen. I just don't understand how at one point you say, as a Bears front office, you say, this is why we need to go trade up for this guy. Oh, let's wait till week 14 to really start using them.
Yeah, and, I've touched on that on multiple shows here on 1252 that I've never liked Matt Nagy's usage of a running back. In regards to that, I believe you've actually said that, Kansas City doesn't run the ball a whole lot. But as much as Matt Nagy wants us to be the Kansas City offense, that's not where we're at right now.
Right. No, absolutely.
So a good coach will tailor to their players. And when you've got a weapon like David Montgomery back there, that guy should be getting the ball 25 times a game, every game.
Yeah. And then you see guys like Ryan Nall. We've talked about Ryan Nall, and you have to go where I think it was Allen that said it. Why is this guy even on the team? You had him on the team all year, but you thought so much of him that you had to bring a wide receiver into the backfield in Cordero Patterson and use Cordero Patterson on 4th and short and 3rd and short and all those plays because you thought he was the guy. And I get it. He's long. You thought he might be able to reach out, blah, blah, blah. But you think so little of Ryan Nall that you don't even use him when guys get hurt. They brought in, who is it, Lamar Miller?
Right.
And they brought in all these guys when you had Ryan Nall the whole time. But yet, as soon as we hit free agency, the first damn free agent signing or re-signing I see is Ryan Nall.
Right.
Why is that a priority? I understand that some of them are easy. Some of them are easier to sign than, the Allen Robinsons were harder to sign than Ryan Nall. But what was the point? Like Al says, Tyler Bray. If you were just going to go ahead, why did you, Tyler Bray never got a shot. Why did you have Chase Daniels when you had Tyler Bray? I get he knows the offense. But Chase Daniels made a career. I saw a thing the other day. He's made, I think it was 37 point some million dollars in his career. And he's thrown 200 passes for his career. He's made it was $100,000 a pass attempt or something like that. Just some stupid number. But people keep turning him. Like, I just, as much as I love to defend Matt Nagy, and I think he hasn't got a fair shot because he didn't have a quarterback, there's also some very, very questionable at best decisions they made with personnel and player usage, like you talked about.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what it boils down to. Again, we're not on the practice field with them. We don't know what they're seeing in the day-to-day, but just some of these decisions really make you scratch your head and go, is this in the best interest of our team?
Yeah. And I always found myself trying to defend them. Even the Ryan Nall signing, at first I was like, okay, everybody calm down. Maybe they're going to make him a fullback. They're not going to make him a fullback. They're not going to make him a fullback. They're going to keep him as a running back. I said, they're talking about re-signing Cordell Patterson. Well, they're probably going to put him back at wide receiver. No, they're probably going to keep him at running back. It's like, I always want to defend these guys and be like, you know what? This is what they're probably going to do. This is a smart thing. But it's the Bears. At some point you start to go, you know what? The smart thing isn't the Bear way.
It really isn't. And kind of transitioning from that specifically to the NFL as a whole. So recently it was voted that the NFL will be adding a game to the season, and they're removing one preseason game to try to balance that out. What's your immediate thought on that, Vince? Are you a fan or are you not a fan of the extra game being added to the regular season?
So for those of the viewers out here who, watch us on Wednesday, we spoke about this, and I'll try to keep it a little more reined in this time than I did on Wednesday. But I just think it's the NFL again trying to think they're smarter than everybody else. They've put safety first, safety first, safety first. Everything they do, they say is safety. The new rules that make the offense easier to score. Well, no, it's about safety. Everything is about safety. But yet you're going to say, well, we're going to take a preseason game that nobody plays in, and we're going to add another regular season game that you do play in. And now we're just going to put more workload on your body, and that's just supposed to be okay. The Thursday night games, they talk safety, but all the players, nobody likes the Thursday night games that are players. I understand some fans do.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, 17 games instead of 16, more football. Thursday night games, more days of football. All about it. As a fan, I get all of that. But at the same time, don't try to call it and say, well, we're trying to do this for this, and we're trying to just come out and say, you know what? We just came off COVID. We didn't have no fans last year. We're going to get more money for our regular season games. So we're going to do a whole extra home game for everybody.
Right.
And we're going to do Thursday games because, well, Amazon's willing to spend billions of dollars to pay us to do it. So we're just going to take the money. I would respect and be like, okay, well, it may not be in the best interest of the players, but the players do get part of that money. So at least they're getting something out of it rather than just say, oh, I think it's in the best interest of the league.
Right. Yeah, I do have to agree with you on that. My initial thought, just as a fan, was great. We're getting another game. I love football. I'm definitely a more football is better type of guy at the end of the day. But from a fan perspective, I like it. From a take perspective, though, I do understand what you're saying. We preach player safety, and then we turn around and add a game where it's going to go one of two ways, right? Either everybody's going to be playing or the playoff seeding's already going to be set the games aren't going to matter, and then nobody's going to be playing anyway. So I think it'll be interesting to see how teams approach this extra game this year. And I mean, obviously, it was something that was voted a yes by every team except the Chicago Bears, which that's another thing. When you talk about how backwards this organization is on certain things, man, I think that was just a big publicity stunt for the Bears to say to players that were unhappy with it, hey, come play for us. We voted against this because we care about you. We care about player safety, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, they knew that everyone else was going to vote yes, I'm sure. They had to at least have that feeling.
You know what, Dave? Everything since Matt Nagy's been here, he's a player's coach. He is very much about him, and they've said him and Sean McVay are very much the preseason nobody plays. They're very much about resting players' bodies, stuff like that. So I could see a lot of reasons why they would say no, but I think you hit it dead on when you said at the end of the day they knew it was going to pass. The owners talked. They knew the majority was going to pass. Most felt it would be unanimous. I feel like at the end of the day, at the last second, they said, you know what? Let's just say no. Let's vote against it. It'll still pass. And then we could just say, well, you know what? We fought for it. We tried to only keep it 16.
Right. We care about the players. We care about your safety. And that's, unfortunately, you see a lot of, just when it comes to the Bears press conferences, anytime the Bears go on the record, it's usually really vague and doesn't tell us a lot. I mean, today you saw him stand behind Andy Dalton, and then you saw Matt Nagy say that he's going to be calling plays. But other than that, what did we get out of that press conference as fans?
Yeah, I know that obviously things are different than they normally are because of COVID still. They didn't have the combine. They didn't have the media day. The combine turned into a mandatory media day. That was the last one we had where a lot of the collaboration, and they refused to say how long their contracts were. That was that press conference. You had that one. You had these mandatory ones where there's not a lot going on. I just feel like I know the NFL does it because they want that access and they want to stay relevant. With everything else going on right now, with no football games, I want to say relevant, but you never really get any out of those press conferences. At the end of the day, what are you supposed to say? Matt Nagy's going to call plays. Cool. We're going to stand behind Andy Dalton. Well, of course you are. You signed him. You felt like he was the best guy. Well, no shit. You felt he was the best guy. You signed him. If you didn't feel like he was the best guy out there, you wouldn't have signed him. So, I mean, it's just, it's a lot of the rhetoric that you expect to hear from now on with the Bears. They've never been ones to be transparent about anything. They keep everything close to the vest. I just wish the NFL wouldn't make them mandatory, because all it does is irritate Bears fans that you get the same press conference every time. You might as well be a pre-recorded interview or press conference that you just press play every time you're going to have a press conference. It's going to be a lot of McCaskey and Ted Phillips talking about how Ryan Pace is the football department. He's the head of football. You're going to get a lot of Ryan Pace talking about how great Matt Nagy is. Matt Nagy talking about how great Ryan Pace is. Everybody loves everybody. Everybody gets along. And that's why we feel they're the best guys for their position. Well, at some point, winning football games is more than, well, everybody gets along. Mike Tomlin, they say that he's tough to get along with sometimes, but you know what? He's never had a losing season with the Steelers. Right. I mean, at some point, winning has to be what matters. And unfortunately for the Bears, they're not that type of franchise.
No, and unfortunately, while we have both Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy in Chicago, I just don't see that being the mindset. So,
no,
I'm excited to see what comes this season. Excited to see how the 17th game plays into the season, and I'm gonna be as optimistic as possible with Andy Dalton here moving forward. I was really down on him when the signing was first made, but I think after calming down a little bit and looking at the numbers, watching some tape, I think it was definitely an upgrade over Trubisky and Foles. So we'll see how this season plays out. Yep. All we can do is hope that the Bears can be the best that they can be. with that, though, Vince, let's take a minute here, guys. We're going to take a quick break and give you guys a quick word from our sponsor, the Jonathan Darren team over at the Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group. We'll be back with you in 60 seconds.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Darren, licensed real estate broker with Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group in Homer Glen. Are you looking to buy or sell? Have you been disappointed in the past? The Jonathan Darren team with Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group focuses on providing you with a concierge level of service during the process of buying or selling. We are a service-oriented team with a fresh and professional approach to selling real estate. Our goal is to combine knowledge, skills, and passion to exceed our clients' expectations, and most of all, we truly care. We are a knowledgeable real estate team focused on offering expertise and innovative solutions for our clients. The Jonathan Darren team has 5 full-service real estate brokers and a dedicated full-time marketer servicing all of Chicagoland. We will customize a detailed plan around your timeline for a sale, purchase, investment, estate, or other needs. Real estate transactions can be stressful, but don't need to be. Let us handle it for you. Visit our website, homesbyjdt.com, or call 708-308-1938 today. Expect better in real estate. Choose the Jonathan Darren team.
All right, guys. Again, that was a quick word from our sponsor, Jonathan Darren, and his team over at the Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group. Definitely give them a call if you're looking to make a purchase in the area.
I just want to interrupt for a second. I know before we go anywhere else, I got something sent to us we have our own little group chat here at 1252. So the Raptors are beating the Warriors 105-52 right now.
What?
It just came across the chat. The Raptors are leading. Let me pull it up again. Let me look off screen. 105-52 with 1:59 left in the third quarter.
What is going on there?
I have no idea, but they're down 50, and they've given up 102 points still with 2 minutes left in the third quarter.
Obviously, something's going on there. We'll have to check on that after the show, but I mean, that's definitely nothing like what I anticipated that game would be.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It just threw me off guard there for a second when I saw it come across.
Right. No, absolutely. That's a crazy score differential. And I mean, we just saw what Golden State did to our Bulls.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So, it's almost one of those things like in football, they say any given Sunday, any given night on the NBA court, something crazy can happen.
I hear that. There must be some big plays in that game, and I'll use the pun there to go ahead and transition to our guest here. And we're bringing out, he's a 2-time Arena Bowl champ, Arena Bowl MVP, all Ironman team, Playmaker of the Year, Wide Receiver of the Year, Western Illinois alum, and Morgan Park's own big play, Reggie Gray.
What's up, Reggie? How we doing?
Just hanging in there. How y'all guys doing?
We're doing well. Thanks for
good,
joining
man.
us.
We appreciate you coming on with us. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Excuse the darkness. I'm actually in the car. I'm not driving. I'm pulled over. But,
no, you're all good. We appreciate you taking the time out to hop on with us here. Before we get into the back and forth and telling everybody about you, just give us a little bit of your story, man. How did you, coming up through high school and college, and how did you get to the AFL and, your whole background?
Oh, man. Well, I first started playing like organized football in 6th grade. Not sure what. I believe that maybe have been in 96. Showing my age there a little bit. I believe it was like 96. So I first started playing, and I fell in love with it. Played 6th grade through 8th, and then went to Morgan Park High School, 9th grade, my whole high school career basically. And they recruited me this summer to come there. I was so shocked to get a phone call, asking if I wanted to come play football at Morgan Park. I was so shocked. I guess that was my first stage of recruiting ever. But I was excited. Went there. It was a big culture shock to me because I hadn't lifted a weight in my life, and I go there and they outside lifting weights and just all type of stuff. But but yes, I started my career in high school, Morgan Park High School. I may add, best public um, school ever. But yeah, I went there and I actually broke my ankle going into my sophomore year, so I wasn't able to transition to varsity until my junior year. But my first 2 years, I was actually just playing running back. I would have number
Okay.
20 because of Barry Sanders. I took up after him
Okay.
and I was trying to be that shifty, shake you like a crossover on the football field type of player. I would have number 20, but when I went to varsity, they basically, switched me over to wide receiver because I was probably a buck 20 soaking wet then, and they knew I wouldn't be able to take them hits on the varsity level, so switched over to wide receiver. Um, Junior year was more of a transitioning year. Didn't really do too much or anything, and then my senior years was when I just took off. Took off and basically earned a scholarship to go to Western Illinois University,
Right.
which I went there and spent 4 years and left there as the all-time leading receiver in all categories and kick return and all that. So basically didn't even get a look at all. When it comes to the pro level, I was a college All-American and everything, but
Right.
I mean, I was always on a small frame. Small frame back then. 5'9", 170 was viewed as could never ever play in the NFL, too small and all type of stuff. Where now you got quarterbacks that's 5'9" and getting
Oh,
drafted
absolutely.
number 1 overall. And
Right.
if I was 10 years later, waited off another 10 years, who knows? But yeah, so left there. Had a couple of offers for Canada and but still was waiting for the NFL. Didn't shake out. So then kind of put my hat in the rims of indoor arena football. Started with the Bloomington Extreme. Then when left there, went to the Chicago Rush, then to the Chicago Slaughter, then back to the Chicago Rush, then San Jose SaberCats, Jacksonville Sharks, Baltimore Brigade, Washington Valor, and now unofficially retired, sitting and chilling in Chicago. I'll try to give a brief summary.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just to hear all the different things and the stops you've made and to make an impact at all of them. For those that are familiar with the arena game, I gave your resume when we brought you on, and man, it's there's not a whole lot to have done it at that level. So we appreciate you coming on with us. What was the difference when you first went to the indoor arena game? What was the biggest thing that you had to the hardest thing for you to get used to compared to the outdoor game going indoor?
Those walls. I can tell you that. Those walls are undefeated. They're going to stay undefeated. And that was one of the biggest things I had to adjust to, in which it was tough. I mean, I had to find out the hard way. I want to say my first game playing, first or second game playing, I went up for a deep ball in the back of the end zone and tore my MCL against the backboards.
Oof.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that was, I guess I jumped up and kind of ninja kicked the wall, but like I said, they're undefeated, so it didn't give. Tore my MCL and it that was my first major injury really ever. I don't think up until that point I ever missed a game.
Okay.
And from grade school to high school to college, I don't think I ever missed an actual game. And so to tell you MCL was really it was a downing experience at the moment. Because I still had aspirations of maybe making it to the NFL. and I didn't know how serious MCL injuries were, but I just knew it was the knee. And
Right.
yeah, that was the biggest obstacle that I had to come mastering, which it was those walls.
Did the size of the field take some getting used to playing receiver?
It did as well. Obviously, it's smaller in length, and it's
Right.
surrounded by those walls, but just having smaller areas to try to work through, and it wasn't too many juking things going on
Right.
on that level, because as soon as you catch the ball, you got 2 or 3 guys on you, and I mean it was difficult trying to adjust. The good thing about the indoor arena game is it's you pass a little bit more than even the typical college that I went to. We were predominantly running the ball, so me even going into it and just the little bit more passing that was being done, I was excited about it. Then obviously you go to the arena football and it's 95% passing, which 5% is a run play, which is a trick play technically. But yeah, the field being smaller, you definitely have to adjust to that. And I would say it was more adjusting to the angles, because once you learn the angles, then the field actually seems a little bigger. So it's making those adjustments.
So you talked about, the different places you played in the AFL, the Jacksonvilles and the San Jose's and Washington, Chicago. I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here. Out of all the places you played, who's the best quarterback you played with?
Oh, I thought you were going to say the best play. I was going to say Chicago. Hometown, Chicago, everything.
Right.
Oh, wow. Wow, so you said, okay, repeat the question again.
So out of all the places you played, who is the best quarterback you've ever played with?
Ooh, the best quarterback that I ever played with. I guess it's kind of tricky because it was either the best quarterback when I was there with them, or the best that I think, in my opinion, just overall. I guess
your choice.
I'm a little biased. I'm a little biased when it comes to picking a quarterback. I mean, I played with some great ones now. Tommy Grady, Eric Meyer, Russ Mickner, Nate Stanley. Then I played with probably another 10 quarterbacks that, they were coming in and out, and, so I don't want to disregard anyone. But, can't forget Nick, the Laser, Nick Davila, even though I was only able to play for him for maybe 2 games, before he, got injured, serious injury. Prayers out to him, as he deal with that neck injury still. I mean, I would go with the quarterback I played the most years with, and it's not so much me ranking them as far as the elite quarterbacks. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying more as far as for me playing, I would have to say Russ Mickner.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I only played with Nick for 2 games. I played with Eric Meyer, for a season, stuff like that. So I mean, they're great quarterbacks. Tommy Grady played with him for half a season. Great quarterbacks.
Right.
Now,
right.
we go as to ranking, that's a different ball game.
Right. Different question. Right.
Right. That's a different question. But as far as who I've played with for my years, I got to give it to Russ Mickner. And another thing was that he was my college quarterback too for 2 years. My first year, he was my college quarterback. Then I went to the Rush. He was my quarterback my first 2 years with the Rush. He was with my quarterback my 2 years in San Jose. So we just had a good chemistry. We had a good chemistry, a great chemistry, I may add. So I would have to say Russ.
And that makes sense. I mean, you build a dynamic with a player, like you said, from college all the way to a couple different teams there within the Arena League. And you obviously had spent the most time with him, gotten the most comfortable with him, and that always translates well on the field. I mean, we see it all the time. So definitely makes sense.
Definitely.
So for those that followed your career, not only were you a dynamic wide receiver, but one of the best return men in the Arena League when you played. If you had one choice, what was the most you got more enjoyment out of doing? Was it the one play touchdown catches or taking that ball off the net on a return and taking it to the house?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I mean, but I would want to say that kick return is something special in an arena game. Basically because all eyes are on you. You know, when you're running around as a receiver, even if it's a one play score, I mean, the eyes gonna be kind of on you as far as the motion man. But a lot of times the eyes may be on the quarterback, so they may not even see you get this ridiculous route at the top of your stem or something like that. But when it comes to kick returning, first you have to catch that ball off the net, which is a big assignment itself, which is so dangerous. Turning your back to 8 screaming guys coming down the field, 7, one with the kick or whatever. And then when you catch it, and it's like everybody is trying to knock your head off. When you make a couple of moves, make a couple of guys miss, then turn on them jets and things like that. And then when you finally score, then you have all 7 of your teammates coming down there to celebrate with you because they just had a big part of it and they were able to get down there fast enough. Where on offense, the linemen, some of them come down, some of them be like, all right, yeah, you good, type thing. I would say that kick return, to be able to go technically 50 plus yards, to go score a touchdown. And I think that brings a lot of excitement, and I think it might be that.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's as far as kick returns go in the league. Do you want to explain that a little bit to some of our viewers that may not be as familiar with how that goes in the arena football?
Oh yeah, in the arena football game, they had their own patented rules where you had nets, and basically just think about a field goal in an outdoor game. And on the side of them, that field goal is bouncing nets. Basically like
Right.
You go and you throw a ball against it and it bounce back and come back to you. So when it comes to the kickoff, basically, unless you're onside kicking it or something, they're kicking it to those nets. Now
Right.
good kickers, they know how to kick it where it bounce sideways. They know how to kick it low enough where it almost hit a bar, because it's a bar separating where that connects the nets. And then the other difficult part is it's a net in between the field goal post. So therefore, if the kicker kicks through the field goal post, the ball is still live because it hits the net and it comes down at a different angle as well. So so your conventional, kickoff in the outdoor game, they kick it, you field it, you can just bring it back out. But when it comes to the arena game, they kick it off the nets. You literally have to follow the ball from when it was kicked over your head, turning around, seeing it hit off the net, and then still be able to catch it, and then turn and run. The good thing about it is it's a rule. It's I think they technically, the kickoff team cannot pass the 5-yard line before you catch the ball. Now,
Okay.
in theory, that's the rule. But I mean, genetically wise, it's not too many fast people that get down there as soon as you catch it off the net and they're in your face that fast. It's kind of impossible, but it's possible, because sometimes the ball can get caught in the net and you got to wait on it. Sometimes it take a funny bounce and pop high in the air and you got to wait on it. So no one is running down there thinking I have to stop at the 5-yard line. And I've got caught a couple of times where I caught it, it got hung up, and the ball carried me to turn and catch it towards the guys, and I literally got blew up. And the coaches, any special team coach in the arena game will tell the guys, I don't care about that penalty. You just run down and lighten him up. But so we're protected to a certain degree, but it's not really protected because them guys are not slowing down. They come at full throttle.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for giving our viewers just a little bit of insight on that for those that may not have been familiar with the rules. I can imagine that's got to be something that was at first a little bit difficult to adjust to, just because in college you field some kicks in the open field, and then all of a sudden now you've got to learn this whole new dynamic with the timing of the nets and everything. I'm sure it definitely was something to adjust to at first.
Oh yeah, definitely was something to adjust to. I was a nervous wreck about doing it. I've returned, All-American kick returner in college and returned in the other indoor games that didn't have the net. But the fact of having to do it, and the thing was, I was just thrown out there. Like you can't really practice too much off the nets because you can't get into the arena until probably the day before the game to be able to, when they set up the field and get off the net. So I was kind of just thrown in there, and it was just really just trial and error, trial and error. But I was definitely a nervous wreck, But once you kind of do it over and over again, you kind of get the tricks and the trade, and you kind of know how the ball bounce and things like that. But I would say my first couple of years, even though I did it, it was very nerve-wracking. Very nerve-wracking.
Well, and it got tricky too because, like Reggie talked about, there's a metal. If you could picture, there's a metal frame around these nets. So as the ball gets close to the edge of the net, you're in position to get it off the net, and it hits the iron, and now it takes a completely different bounce, and now it's a live ball.
Right. That's the thing too. I didn't mention that. As soon as that ball go past 10 yards, just like any other football, that's a live ball. So even if the ball hit off the iron and bounce, and that ball is live. So it's almost like you have to field it. I mean, it's been a lot of times where guys, I would say even myself maybe a few times, didn't field the ball correctly, and it was bouncing, and they grabbed it and recovered it. And the thing is, they recovered and scored a touchdown. So it is a different game, a different beast, and you have to be something special in order to, be able to field the kicks.
So out of your two Arena Bowls, the two teams that you played on for the Arena Bowl, which was your favorite, Arena Bowl win, and which was the most fun?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a tie between favorite. I would say both of them are favorites because one, obviously, winning your first championship, on arena level, that's remarkable. But then it also was my favorite when I won it in DC, is because we played the Baltimore team who I played with the year before. That is speculation, but to my understanding, they didn't want to bring me back.
So it's a little bit of revenge.
A little bit of a revenge game, yeah.
A revenge game. And so basically to beat them on their home field for the championship against a lot of my old teammates, a lot of guys that probably didn't like me, a coaching staff that, we had our bumps and bruises, but thought basically they could do better by bringing in other players. To that was the more satisfying, I would say, because even my first championship with San Jose, the game before the championship was where it was. Over there, the San Jose Arizona rivalry, that was a rivalry in itself, and that was the game before the championship, before the Arena Bowl. So so once we won that game, the Arena Bowl was kind of just like, okay, we're here, we might as well go and win it. But we had so much satisfaction beating Arizona the game before. The championship was almost like, don't get me wrong, we wanted to win it, but it was almost like, we should win it. So let's just go. But I would say the one I had the most fun in was definitely San Jose. For one, that championship game in Baltimore, I was playing on a completely torn hamstring. So I was on all type of shots, medication, wraps, everything. I was just trying to get through the game, but I wanted to be there for my teammates. But I was hurting. I mean, torn to where I probably after that game I probably couldn't jog for 3-4 months. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
Oh wow.
But when adrenaline rushing and you kind of get that shot, and I don't recommend it for anybody, but it can make you do some things that you didn't think you can do. But San Jose definitely, because it was a challenge. I was at the peak of my game. I was a little banged up there too, but you had a team with a bunch of all-stars on their side, team with a bunch of all-stars on our side. They had a great defensive back that it was a challenge going against. It was fun. It was fun. Just the talking back and forth. It was just a lot of fun. And I showed my tail that game. I got Arena Bowl MVP that game, so that was a lot of fun as well. So yeah, so those are the answer to those two. I'm a little long-winded, I guess. I just love.
No, you're good. You're good. We, like I said, we appreciate you being on. The detailed answers are always fun to. It's always nice to get. You don't know about the revenge games and the injuries
Right.
guys play with. I think in sports in general, a lot of times guys play with injuries, and you're like, man, he just didn't show up today. He just didn't look like himself. And then later on, you find out, oh, he was playing with injury, and just kind of forced himself through it and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, you never want to make the excuse like, oh, I did this and that because my injury, stuff like that. I mean, nobody wants to hear it because everybody deals with it. But a lot of people just watching from the outside in, they really don't know what guys be dealing with just to put on a show for the fans, as well as try to bring on the victory for the fans. And that game, I mean, even if you look at that game, I mean, I didn't have a great game, maybe 3-4 catches, something like that. Nothing strenuous. I think I barely played the fourth quarter, second half, whatever it may be. But, somebody look at it, they be like, oh, Reggie just had a bad game. He had an off game. He had a terrible game. Okay, that's fine. We got the W. We got the victory. We had a lot of capable guys that could do what they do. But I was just happy to be out there with them and just go for it. But yeah, a lot of people don't understand injuries. Even if you're at your top of the game, injuries tend to slow you down a lot. In which, sometimes it's not about age, which they always throw that on people, but age and skill level and stuff like that, your skill diminished. No, sometimes you banged up and you just can't do some of the things you would like to do.
Oh, absolutely. That's like Vince touched on. I mean, you never really get to hear it from a player's perspective until you sit down and talk with somebody. So we appreciate you giving us that insight and, telling us a little bit about how you were as a player, as well as some of the rules and regulations there in the Arena League. For those that are not as familiar with it, you definitely gave us a unique perspective on that. So we appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all. I'm here. I talk about whatever y'all need me to talk about.
My question is, you got the 2 Arena Bowl rings. Who's got the nicer ring?
Ooh, that's a good question. I have one on now, right? So it is my San Jose one. Short story, which a lot of people kind of know, but people that's not familiar with the arena game really don't know. But this ring specifically, I had this one made. San Jose ring.
Okay.
It was made from the design that San Jose had made to give to the players. We never received the rings. But
really,
that team, we were 20-1. We lost one game that was to the worst team in the league, the Kids that year, in overtime. We rested players, whatever it may be. But it's the best arena team in arena football history. It's my opinion, but I think it's a strong case that it should be bar none, just based on what we did, what we accomplished. But we didn't get the rings. So a lot of players in the league was like, oh, well, y'all not the real champions. Y'all can't be real champions because y'all ain't got rings to kind of support it. So, it's tandem. So, but the ring in D.C., That one's kind of put up. That's a remarkable ring. I can say that is a remarkable ring. It came with insurance, showing how much they cut. It's a very expensive ring. I can put it like that. And you got to understand that our owners were Ted Leonis and the Monumental Group, who owns the Wizards, the Mystics.
Right.
So
The Capitals.
the Capitals, can't leave the Capitals, and so they knew what it meant to actually have a championship ring. So they went over and beyond for the rings. Now, and going back to the San Jose ring, we recently just got the word that we're getting our rings.
I actually saw on Facebook,
Okay.
I saw some of the guys have started to receive them.
Some of the guys are starting to receive their rings. I haven't got mine yet. I'm patiently waiting. I've been patiently waiting for 6 years, so therefore I can wait a little bit longer. But they're on their way, and I'm excited to see how these rings are. And so I to compare the ring I purchased and the Wizard ring. There's hands down, I could throw this ring away, technically speaking. But when I get the San Jose SaberCat ring, I definitely will have both of them in a little mantle next to each other, only to be brought out on special occasions. I'm still gonna wear this ring. It still symbolizes, whatever. But this one, if I lose it, I didn't pay a grip for it. If I lost them other two rings, I'd be highly upset. So those rings will only be coming out, probably if I got to give a Hall of Fame speech or something one day. Or, special occasions when I just want to kind of, stun a little bit and show these real diamonds and gold. And because I can tell you that one I have with Monumental, with the Washington team, that thing is, I went and got it appraised too. So very, very expensive. And I would not choose to wear something like that on my ring at all, in my hand at all times.
Right.
Right.
It costs too much.
Well, yeah, it's definitely missed. The game is missed by a lot of people, and everybody who followed arena football, even just for a little bit of time, Big Play Reggie Gray is a household name.
Oh, well, thank you. I tried to work that. I tried to make it a household name for anybody that kind of know arena football. I mean, really for the Chicagoland area. I'd be surprised sometimes that a lot of guys that play football in Chicago, they're familiar with me, and it's definitely a humbling experience. I take pride in the high school I went to, and being from a Chicago public school, I take pride in that all day, every day. Now I've been trying to play a little 7-on-7, in these leagues, but still dealing with some injuries and some lawsuits and stuff like that, so I can't touch on that too much.
Right.
But
right.
I mean, it's just a Big Play name. It was given to me in college, and I just kind of tried to run with it, just try to be successful enough to kind of provide for my family. And that's one thing, the blessing, I thank God for, is that football has allowed me it has taken me to heights that I never thought I'd be able to go to. Going over to China and going to China for 2 months and everything being completely paid for. South side of Chicago, people want to talk about me I always mention that I'm from the south side of Chicago. So I'm going to get something with that by saying that. But anyway, being from the south side of Chicago, I mean, I had never even been up North Chicago or southwest suburbs. Like a lot of people don't get that opportunity, and to be able to go across the waters, which I thought I'd never be able to. I'm grateful. And arena football in general has did that for me. It's allowed me to transition into post football, which is flipping houses. Started a company as far as flipping houses, and I got my first offer on my first house, so I'm excited about that. Started a trucking company.
Okay.
Started a trucking company in which I'm actually in class for my CDL license. I just passed the permit test, so I got my permit because, I don't want to drive trucks, but if I have a worker, a driver, and he can't, fulfill his duty in taking a a load somewhere, I want to be able to know the industry where I can just jump in the truck and make sure my business don't take a black eye, by not delivering a load and
Right.
stuff like that. So I'm going through that process of trying to get my CDL and trying to get my real estate license so I can kind of have that covered too. So, I mean, I'm just excited that football, it took me there, and I didn't make NFL money. Definitely didn't make NFL money, but I made good money to buy houses, buy trucks, have my own house, have my own cars. It's just been a blessing, man. And a lot of people out there just think it's NFL or bust, but you can actually have a very good living, in other measures. I mean, CFL, the XFL that's coming back, that fan control league that's going on now. It just, if you can play, I say play and keep living the dream. I've lived it.
Absolutely. Well, Reggie, man, we appreciate you coming on with us. As a friend of yours and a big time Chicago Rush fan, would have loved to see celebrating a championship at home here in Chicago. Who knows what the future holds? But we really, really appreciate you spending all this time with us and kind of giving everybody a behind the scenes look at some of the things that goes into being a professional career and such a high impact career like you had.
Yeah, thank you so much, Reggie, for your time. We appreciate you coming on with us. Gave us a very good perspective, and like I said, we appreciate the time. So you take care. Have a good night.
I definitely appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, definitely. You're a friend of the show. Maybe we'll have you on again here, not to closer to the draft, where we had you, we had Steve Edwards, and we had Derek Ross on, and you guys have all just been great interviews, and we appreciate all of your guys' time.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Just throwing out a hint or a sneak preview. Don't be surprised if the AFL comes back. I don't have any confirmation or anything, so I'm not this and that. But don't be surprised the AFL come back, and if it does, I'm pushing for a Chicago team.
Yes, sir.
It's a possibility. So don't think Arena game is dead yet. So
hopefully we'll get to see you out there one more time, and we'll get to see Chicago again. And again, man, just absolutely thank you so much for your time.
All right, you guys have a good one. Appreciate it for having me.
Yep. Thanks, Reggie. Take care. That was an excellent interview. He absolutely fired off some answers. I mean, that guy just the knowledge that he shares. I mean, we've had a couple other Arena League guys come on with us, but just to hear the perspective from a wide receiver, especially when wide receiver and kick returner, especially when you're talking about the challenges. He said it was very difficult, obviously, with the walls and everything, getting accustomed to that, and then as well as being a returner with and without the nets. That's a big dynamic to adjust to. So it was cool to hear that perspective. And
yeah, it was really cool to get the behind the scenes, playing with injuries and the difference in championships and the whole thing with the rings with San Jose. And a lot of people don't know, but Reggie, when he played, he wore hockey pads. He didn't wear football pads. He wore hockey pads.
Right.
He was always the high motion guy, so he wanted to be able to move the best he can. But just all the behind the scenes, that he really opened the door to things that you usually don't, like you said, you don't hear about a lot of that unless you sit down with a player and get their behind the scenes perspective. So we appreciate him being on with us. Another great interview. Before we get to any other part of the show, we want to take a second to get a word in from one of our big sponsors here with 1252 Nick and Ivy Brewing.
Hello, this is Paul from Nick and Ivy Brewing Company. We are located at 1026 South State Street in historic downtown Lockport, Illinois. We are very excited to be partnering up with the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show, as well as the 1252 brand, because we are one of the few Chicagoland breweries that embrace sports and sports culture. Come in for a fresh brewed beer made right here in Lockport while catching the game of your favorite team. Stay for the live music that we have booked every weekend, or just come for a cozy atmosphere to enjoy a good conversation with a friend, loved one, or complete stranger. manager. Nick and Ivy makes you feel right at home no matter what the occasion is. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for Nick and Ivy Brewing Company. Visit our website for our up-to-date tap list or to go shopping on our online store at nickivybrewing.com. That's Nikivy brewing.com. Come in today for fresh brewed beer born and raised in Lockport, Illinois.
And we are back again. That was a quick word from our sponsor, Nick and Ivy, out in Lockport. If you guys are in the area, definitely stop in and check them out. Great beer, great atmosphere. You won't regret it.
Yeah, we're going to be down there on the 18th for a nice live show, live from Nick and Ivy. So that should be a hell of a time down there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Going to be a live Fat Mike Chicago sports show. Going to have some great guests, friends of the show. David Schuster and Fred Hubner, I believe, are going to be joining the show for that one. So be another great remote. Hope to see you guys out there. Now, Vince, real quick before we wrap things up for the night, you want to touch on some opening day baseball? I know particularly I want to touch on a couple of the things that we saw out of the White Sox yesterday. What was your initial reaction to the White Sox game, and more specifically, how it was managed by Tony La Russa?
So obviously the majority of us, if not all of us, well, except for Tyler, but he's for Wisconsin fans, so that doesn't matter, but we're all pretty much Cub fans. So
Right.
But we like to, we cover the Sox. We hit both sides. We like to cover everything. When I heard they hired Tony La Russa, and I said this on Wednesday, when I heard they hired Tony La Russa, I thought it was a horrible, horrible mistake. I thought it should have been AJ Hinch. I think that the game is not what it was when Tony was a coach and he was on the bench and he was using his gut to decide everything. I think there's, some sort of analytics is used no matter what team you're with now. Some teams more than others. Right. Our guy Allen here said that Tony blew that call. I'm thinking he's talking about the not reviewing the steal. There's just there's things that Tony's not used to, and everybody said that he was going to get in the way. And then as spring training started and all the players bought in, it was, he's the right guy. All the players love him, this and that. But now here it is, just one game in, and you're already wondering, did they make a horrible mistake? First off, not reviewing, like Alan said, that he blew that call completely. And it's not just on him. I mean, there's guys that are supposed to tell him, hey, you're supposed to review that. But, sitting Andrew Vaughn, you brought the kid up. He's a hot prospect. Everybody's excited to see him, especially you said, well, how are we going to replace a guy like Eloy who went down in spring training? Well, we're going to replace him with Andrew Vaughn. Boom, instant impact. What better memory is there than Andrew Vaughn, who everybody's waited for, to come up and hit a home run or a big hit on opening day, and Tony decides to not play him at all? I just didn't understand that. What did you feel about? How did you feel about Vaughn not even playing?
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like that decision from Tony. I think we should have seen Vaughn play. I believe we are going to see him tonight here against the Angels, but. Realistically, I think the biggest issue with the opening game for me was the usage of Giolito. It bothered me that Tony pulled him out of the game when he did. I think you've got to build that trust between a manager and the pitching staff. And yeah, he was having a bad inning there. He started going downhill, but give the guy a chance to save himself, so to speak. It was still relatively early. I believe that was towards the end of the fifth that he pulled him out. And to me, you got to let that guy try to work it out. It's the first game of the year. And then you put a guy like Bummer in there against a bunch of righties, and it just wasn't the right call. To me, it didn't feel like Tony had a lot of confidence in that pitching staff just in the game. Obviously, it's one game in, and we're going to see some changes. We're going to see some adjustments here early on in the season. That's to be expected, but you got to have faith in your, especially when they have as strong of a pitching core as they do on that side of town. I mean, obviously, they've got such a dynamic group of pitchers right now, and they've got a bunch of guys that should be able to hit the ball consistently. We didn't see that so much in spring training as we would have liked to, but only time will tell if Tony La Russa was the right move for the White Sox. But game one, I'm not thinking that we saw a lot of positives out of him. And you touched on, it was said during spring training that all the players bought into him. Well, realistically, how much of that can we take serious, and how, it's almost like with the Bears.
Right.
Bears are 100%. The Bears are 100% behind Andy Dalton. Well, all the players are 100% behind Tony La Russa. Just that can be said just until, someone disagrees with the decision of his and it becomes public, and only time will tell if there is going to be some tension between La Russa and the players moving forward. I do hope that it works out for him, for both, the players and his sake. But baseball's an evolving game. There's a lot of things that have changed over the past few years. So
yeah, definitely. It'll
be interesting to see, how Tony, I guess, acclimates to some of the new technology that's in baseball, as well as, the analytics and things like that. So we'll see how it goes here moving forward for this Sox team. They're a young team with a lot of power in that bullpen. So I did touch on it on Wednesday night. I think that they probably win their division, but only time will tell.
Yeah, I think he just, and again, like you said, it's one game. We don't want to overreact to one game, but it just felt like he didn't have a real good feel for the pulse of his team and who they are.
Right.
It almost is like when he managed before to now, the managers almost do less now than they don't have to manage as much. Especially you get guys that they have to face a minimum of 3 guys out of the bullpen. So you don't do that constant batter for batter matchup. You just feel like it kind of, I don't want to say it manages itself, but I feel like it does more than it used to. And it felt like he overmanaged yesterday. He tried to go with his feeling too much when he didn't need to be there. And, we'll see if that's something that continues over the course of 162, or if that's just all of us overreacting to one game because it's opening day and everybody's watching opening day. But, I have to agree with you when you said about Giolito. You see a lot of guys, they go 5 innings, 4 innings, 3 innings on opening day, but you see the Scherzers and the Kershaws and all the DeGroms, all those guys, a lot of times they come out, they throw complete games on opening day. And if Giolito did a lot to get himself into the discussion of that top tier starting pitchers, and he's your ace, I tend to agree with you, especially because there's 161 after the opening day. So it's not like you're deciding the playoffs off that game. Let him try to get out of it. Let him build that relationship with him now where he can, he goes, you know what? Coach has my back. We got a connection. He trusted me and I'm going to go out there and do it for him. So we'll see how that goes. I don't want to overblow it off one game, but we'll just see how that plays out.
Right. Transitioning here a little bit, Vince, what would you say if I told you that the Bulls were actually beating the Jazz right now?
I would say that the seas have parted. Everything is lined up. The AK we trust, and Vooch is having himself a game, and these moves are starting to take the Bulls in the direction we want to go.
Well, the score is only 25-24. So.
Man, you got me excited. I thought it was like the fourth quarter. I lost track of time. I thought it was like the fourth quarter. Bulls are blowing out the Jazz, and they're up 30, and Vooch is blocked Jokic 4 times. And
it's 25-24 right at the end of the first. I think it's obviously still early. There's a lot of a game to be played there still, but realistically, it's nice to see them, staying competitive with a team like the Jazz, because the last time we played them, man, I mean, it was hard to watch with.
Yeah. Well, and even with the Bulls, with the losing streak they've had since they made the trades and that, I still feel like that buzz is still there. Like everybody's still excited about this Bulls team now. They're waiting for that game where they take off, where it's like this, okay, they gelled, and now we're going to see that Bulls team that's going to, start beating those top teams in the NBA. And if you don't make those moves at the deadline, that buzz isn't there. That, if they sell off everybody, then it's just the same Bulls. But this is a different team. It's going to take time for them to gel. It's going to take time for them to practice together. And yeah, like our guy Allen said, give it time. They're going to get it right. And a lot of these moves, they weren't just made for right now. They were made for the future, and they were made for the offseason. They rather than getting to the offseason where you go, okay, well, what plan are we going to go? What route are we going to take? What path is this team on? It's very clear the path that this team is on now. And we're no longer in that rebuilding. We're ready to compete. And every move that they make now will be to further this team into that competition level of the top tier teams in the NBA.
Oh, I definitely agree with you on that, Vince. I think, obviously we've seen some tough losses here the last few games, but this team's got a tough stretch coming up. I mean, we touched on it last week when we talked with David Schuster. This team has, I believe it's 11 away games before they're home again.
Yeah, it was like 10 out of 11 or 9 out of 10, something like that.
Yeah.
All on the road. And, that's tough. It's tough for a young team. So it was nice to get a couple, a veteran like Vucevic who's been around, and you just add that feel to the team where it's like we want to go out and beat every team now.
Well, and I think it speaks volumes that, we went out and got a guy like Vooch who can do a little bit of everything. He is definitely a clear improvement over Wendell Carter Jr. I got to laugh a little bit because I did see in some of the Bulls groups that I'm in, I did see some people posting Wendell Carter Jr.'s stat line the other night. And, oh, my God, he put up 23 points. Well, now that they got rid of Vooch, who else are they going to give the ball to? Not
only did they get rid of Vooch, they got rid of 4 of their 5 starters from the game before. I mean,
absolutely.
They had nobody, I think, but Terrence Ross was the only one left. It's like, well, of course he's going to score. They got nobody else.
Right. They're totally in rebuild mode.
Yeah.
So,
they can keep Carter and they can keep the rebuild, and the Bulls will keep making moves to get to a championship.
Right. Yeah, I think we made some great moves there at the trade deadline. Obviously everyone's big on Vooch, but I'm really big on Daniel Tice as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a bulldog.
That guy was, really beloved by his teammates, and they were really sad to see him go, obviously.
Great locker room guy, great effort guy, good hustle guy. He could play the center. He could play the 5, he could play the 4. He's just a very, very give you everything he's got type guy.
Yeah, I think personally I would love to see him moving forward. Just have him at the 4 and have Vooch at the 5. That's a hell of a matchup right there. And then if you got Vooch
at the 5, and you got Tice at the 4, and Williams at the 3, and you got Zach at the 2. Now we're just looking for that point guard, and this team's going to play elite defense with that lineup, and they're going to score too.
Right. Our guy Allen here in the chat saying he's the defensive presence that we need to get these other guys going.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Agree.
I mean, Patrick Williams has been solid defensively. I obviously want to see him improve, but realistically, you get a guy like that to really push the defensive side of the ball, and then we can stay in games with some of these top-tier teams that, go out there and score 115 points a game. Well, if you can, slow the pace down and really have a defensive presence that's respected, that changes the whole dynamic of the games you're playing. And
they've what it does, it makes the whole roster more versatile. Obviously they're gonna make some changes in the offseason, but you got guys like Thaddeus Young. If you went with the lineup we talked about, now you bring in other guys to right now for the rest of the year. You still got Laurie coming off the bench, so he could play minutes at the 4, and Tice can get some time at the 5 to give Vooch a break. You got Thaddeus Young. Thaddeus Young, if you want to go small, you got Thaddeus Young who, doing his best Draymond Green impression this year with playing the small center and, rebounding and passing and scoring a few points. It just, regardless of what happens in the games now, they're fun to watch. They're fun to watch and they're fun to cheer. For the last, I don't know how many years, it's been painful to be a Bulls fan. And you felt wrong even wanting to cheer for them. And now it feels good to, have everybody around the NBA and on national shows talking about the great moves the Bulls made and, how great the Bulls are and how all of a sudden they're a team that guys want to play on. Those are things you want to hear. Those are things we've been missing as a Bulls fan. And, not to keep ragging on Ryan Pace, but those are the moves that the Bears don't make. So to have a Chicago team that does make them, at least we have that going for us, and it gives us something to be excited about.
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, I think for the first time in a long time, there's some buzz around this team. There's definitely some upside as far as playability, watchability is going to be up. You're going to see a lot more people that haven't been following the Bulls as closely return and start watching again. So I'm excited to see what this team does here the rest of this year. And then obviously moving forward, really we're one piece away. Just get that point guard that's a true facilitator, and this team could be very promising moving forward. So
yeah, I absolutely agree.
On that note, Vince, I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Nick and Ivy Brewing, as well as the Jonathan Darren team over there with the Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group. Want to thank you guys, our guests, for coming to join us tonight. It was great having big play Reggie Gray on, give us a little bit more perspective about arena football and some of the rules and just the mentality that goes into playing indoor versus outdoor football. So it's been a great show, guys. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it, and we hope to see you again next week.
Definitely.
Real quick, this coming Wednesday on the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show here on the 1252 Network, they've got some big name guests coming on. They've got Pat Boyle coming on. That's going to be huge. Obviously, I know Mike's going to –
all you hockey nuts.
Absolutely. Mike's going to have a lot of hockey to talk about with him. Mike's a diehard hockey fan. I think I follow hockey religiously, but that guy knows more hockey. He's almost knows more hockey than I've forgotten. So
absolutely.
I believe as well they may be having Jim McMahon do an interview, but more to come on that.
Right, that is what I heard.
Some more to come on that. So definitely check out Fat Mike next Wednesday. Thanks again to all our fans for joining us tonight, and have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.